Yes, good morning, welcome along. I'm Professor Sosabowski from the University of Brighton, Professor of Public Understanding of Science, and with me is my chemistry homies, Fireworks Mike Sansom and Fireworks Glenn. And I have to say, what a pleasure it is for the 7th time to be back at Fisher Science World. But before we do this sort of science, let me just tell you, when they invited us back, they said, Professor Hal, we need to be more diverse. You know, these are the times in which we live, and we want more diversity in your show. They said, we're sick to death of seeing white, middle-aged, heterosexual men in white coats. If you want to come back, you better change. We can easily fix that.
Did one of the things anyway.
Did one of the things, right. Okay, we need to get the health and safety stuff out of the way, because I have to say that we're always getting the sort of safety officers on our backs. The safety officer and the coroner. I hate that guy. Anyway, we're doing live science, and we've diligently and meticulously risk-assessed everything, but we are doing experiments which involve loud noises. So if we say, put your fingers in your ears, put them in your ears, and we're doing things involving fire. So, in the unlikely event a reaction gets out of control, I will let you know, and you'll exit the premises by the fire exits, which are signified by the green signs right after me, Mike, and Dave, and any other professors of public understanding of science, one of which is over there in the corner. Okay? So, let's get on with the science, and I have to say, I actually get paid to do all this, which is one of those things, if you do a job you like, you'll never do a day's work in your life. Now, we're going to start off by talking about some states of matter and just revisit what we all know from science at school. And we all know that matter exists as either a solid, a liquid, or a gas. So you've got a solid, which is ice, a liquid, which is water. Can you hold up a kettle, please, Glenn? And a gas, which is slightly inaccurately termed steam. So solid, liquid, gas, and you convert one to the other by boiling, freezing, and you go the other way by melting and condensing. And we base our whole sort of temperature scale on this. The centigrade scale is based on the properties of water. Ice melts at 0, water boils at 100, and we divide the distance in between by 100 to give 1 degree centigrade. But there are certain things that don't obey the laws of science. A bit like us, rebels without a cause. We don't even obey the laws of physics. And one of these is this, solid carbon dioxide. This is slightly unusual in that it basically diverts itself away from one of the states of matter. Instead of going solid, liquid, gas, it goes straight from a solid to a gas. And it does this at an incredibly low temperature of -78. Yeah. That wasn't as sinister as it was supposed to be, was it?
Wasn't as sinister, no.
No, okay. So when I move it around, I have to keep it moving so I don't get any frostbite on my hands. And I certainly shouldn't put it in my mouth because I'll get moved over.
It would do, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so we can do some really elegant science with solid CO2. And I'm all in for elegant and simple science, and I love learning outcomes. We blow stuff up, and I have to say I really dislike the archetypal picture of the exhibition scientist blowing stuff up. And don't get me started on Brainiac, because that's one of my pet bugbears. My therapist says if I just deal with it, I'll get over it sooner or later. But anyway, solid CO2. Have we got a latex glove somewhere, mate? Solid CO2, is that latex?
No.
Oh, it is, isn't it? No. Solid CO2, it turns from a solid straight to a gas, and with just some hot water, a round bottom flask, and a handful of CO2, we can get 4 or 5 learning outcomes. Now, the first one is, and it's right under the smoke detector, look at that. Okay, that's what I like, a bit of sniggering from the back. The first one is, sorry about that, is where's the white smoke going, up or down? It's going down, so we just proved elegantly that carbon dioxide is denser than air. Now the white stuff is actually water vapour, it's not carbon dioxide. The CO2 is subliming, turning directly from a solid to a gas, and you can see it there, the solid's turning into a gas. And we can also illustrate beautifully that gases occupy much more space than solids, because I put in 1.5 handsful of CO2 into that glass jar, and I think you'll agree, it's all right, Professor Sato, be all right. I think you'll agree that we're getting more than 1.5 handfuls in this glove, and when it goes off, give me a big hand. Big hand. Big hand, get it? Right, so, we've illustrated that 1 mole occupies 22.4 litres, and I put much more than 44 grams of CO2, which is 1 mole, and we'll be coming back to that in just a little while. So let's move on a bit, and we're going to stay with our theme of gases, which are lighter than or heavier than air. And we've got over here a little apparatus we call the methane mamba. And Mike's currently producing some methane gas, and he's blowing it through some soap. And I have to say, between you and me, it's one of the few occasions when Mike and soap come into close proximity. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to tell him. Yeah, he's got a bit of an issue with soap. But anyway, Mike, it'll be all right. So what we're doing is we're blowing methane gas through soap. Really? Mike, this is hardly the time or the place. All right, okay. All right, Glenn, get it out of your system, mate. Right, okay. Right, let's move on. And as you can see, methane's lighter than air, so it's starting to support a column of foam. And if we're very, very patient and give it some time, it will assume some snake-like characteristics. And consequently, that's why it's called the methane mamba. And if you let it go there, Mike, we'll give it a bit of a blow. Does that look like a methane mamba? Looks a bit like a methane slug. Oh, don't worry, we can try again later, mate. All right, happens to the best of us. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. You're remembering all the jokes from last year, aren't you? Okay, so first of all, we then proved that methane is lighter than air. And like all good snake owners, Mike's going to take his mamba for a walk.
Ooh.
And there it goes. Give it a clap for Mike's mamba.
We've made sure that the smoke alarms are off, that's the main thing.
And we've just proved also that the smoke alarms are well and truly turned off. Okay, so let's move ahead with our theme about gases. Now, we've also got some helium here. Now, let's talk about helium, right? Now, I am sure you know about helium. And the most common thing people do with helium, of course, is to breathe it in and make their voice go all high-pitched. Now, we do these experiments that you don't have to, so you mustn't try any of this at home. And in particular, you mustn't ever try and breathe in strange gases, or any gases apart from, of course, air, which I recommend you continue to breathe at the normal rate. But helium, let me tell you a bit about that. Helium is named after Helios, the god of the sun, because the sun's a huge fusion reactor producing helium. And I have to say, it gets on my goat when people like me waste it by breathing it in and singing, because it comes from the ground. It's a product of alpha decay of the uranium decay chain, and it's actually quite a finite resource. When it's gone, because helium is so small and so fast, it reaches escape velocity and therefore radiates out into space. All right, and we need it for our MRI scanners and the big cyclotron in CERN, the Large Hadron Collider. So it would be indeed a real waste if we got Mike to sing a song and listen to it, wouldn't it? Yeah, well, that's precisely what we're going to do. But we're also going to do the same thing with sulfur hexafluoride. Now, if you breathe in helium, your voice rises in pitch because it's less dense than air. So your larynx vibrates faster, and a faster vibration causes a raise in pitch. So we've got sulfur hexafluoride, which is denser than air. So my theory is that if I breathe that in, my voice should go down in pitch, and we should get a rather amusing outcome. But it's also a really nice learning outcome because we're just measuring how the density of gases affects pitch. So let's just test it out, shall we, Mike? See if it works.
And you should never breathe helium, right?
I thoroughly agree.
Okay, right.
Do you want to sing a song?
Yes, shall we?
Again.
Right. Oh.
You ready?
And so I face
The
final curtain.
My friends, I'll stay with you.
I state my case, of which I'm certain. I sound really weird. I've travelled each and every highway.
And more, much more than this. We did it my way.
Whoa.
Yes, indeed. Now, excuse me. Mike had the raw end of that deal because he was breathing in no, enough. He was breathing in helium, which is It does indeed cross the blood-brain barrier, so he's anaesthetised. And I was struggling to breathe in and out something that's 6 times heavier than air, but that's okay. As long as you're having a nice day at Fisher Science World, we don't mind being asphyxiated. Do we, Mike?
Not at all.
No, we don't. Okay. Anyway, I can feel a nautical theme coming on, mate.
Right.
Come on, humour me. You know what we've forgotten? The boat. Oh. There it is. Yes, ahoy there, shipmates. How nautical can it be? Aha. Anyway, with these scurvy knaves, we'll be demonstrating a nautical kind of theme. Excuse me while I just adjust my hat to a more rakish angle. Is that rakish or jaunty?
No, not here.
Okay, right, okay. Anyway, that's not the boat. This is the boat. HMS Trafford.
Nice.
Yeah, it is nice, isn't it? Okay. How interesting can it be? Okay, this is a tank of sulfur hexafluoride, and we explained it is 6 times heavier than air. We've got here a boat. It's more of a coracle than a boat, but anyway, I think it illustrates the process rather well. Now, boats float because they contain air which is less dense than water. Isn't it, Mike?
Yes.
All right? And so Archimedes' principle says the upthrust and the displacement will be unequal, and therefore the boat floats. We've got air in this boat and SF6 in the tank. Let's see if it holds true for gases as well. Okay, are you with me, Mr. Cameraman? 3, 2, 1. We have a floater. Isn't that great? It's pretty great.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so we've got our boat that's floating, and I can just assure you absolutely that there's no strings. This is not chicanery. This is real science, and the boat is floating for the reasons I have given, okay? But it would be rather impolite for me to float Mike's boat, as I do from time to time, without going the other way and sinking it. Because I think at the end of the day, I'm bailing in rather than bailing out. So let's have a bit of respect, please. She's going down, Mike.
It is going down.
No sniggering at the back. Yes, give it up for the SF6 boat. Okay, so gases that are lighter than air, gases that are solids, and gases that sublime and recondense. So we're going to go down the temperature scale just now because we showed you minus 78. CO2 is minus 78, and I have to say, we laugh at minus 78. We spank the bottom of minus 78 because you want colder. And our next guest is colder than Mike's front room in the middle of winter. What we've got in here is, of course, the very air around us. We've taken nitrogen gas, we've cooled it down by Joule-Thomson cooling until it's got to a terribly low temperature. This is at a temperature, Mike, of minus 196. Now that is cold, all right? Now that is indeed cold. And we can do some interesting science with liquid nitrogen. Now, I said it boils at minus 196, and that means if we put it at anything that's above minus 196, it will boil. The liquid nitrogen is boiling. Let's re-evaluate our definition of boiling. Boiling does not mean hot. Boiling means a change of state from a liquid to a gas, and it's happening right there in front of you. Now, I want to illustrate our new revised definition of the word boiling by doing what I think is one of the most elegant experiments we've got. We all know that ice is cold. Do you all agree that ice is cold? It's not a rhetorical question. Do you think ice is cold?
Ice is cold.
It is. If you go and throw snowballs after 10 minutes, your little fingers are sore and all the rest of it. So what can ice boil? It couldn't boil anything, could it? Because it's so cold. But ice is at a temperature of 0 degrees. Nitrogen boils at a temperature of minus 196 degrees. Therefore, ice is at a temperature 196 degrees above the boiling point of liquid nitrogen. And therefore, if you put ice into liquid nitrogen, it causes it to boil. I think that's such a pretty elegant experiment, don't you? Don't you? Yes, it is. Look at it. The ice is causing it to boil. The hotness of an ice cube is making the liquid nitrogen boil. And I think that's utterly fantastic. So you can reevaluate your whole definition of the word boiling because we've just shown that cold things can make it boil. And it's the equivalent of putting red-hot ball bearings into water. If you did that, the water would boil because the ball bearings are well above its boiling point. Now, like I said, Emily moaned at us this time round about our lack of diversity. And it wasn't just limited to our gender, or our age, or our ethnicity. She even said, this chemistry is all very well, Professor Hal, but there are other sciences. And I said, are there? Yeah. And she said, yes, how about doing some biology? I said, we're never going to catch any butterflies in the inside of Old Trafford. No. And then guess what? She said the F word. She said physics. Oh. Yeah. And she said, can you do some physics, please? Because the physicists get upset. And I said, well, Brian Cox came last year. She says, no, Brian said there wasn't enough physics, so can you do some physics? So we're going to do Charles's law, all right? And I've got this balloon. Now, you all remember Charles's law, right? You, sir, what's Charles's law? What's that you say? That the volume and the temperature of a gas are proportional. Yes, they are. So basically, the temperature and the volume of a gas are proportional. The colder it gets, the smaller it gets, all right? It contracts. And I'm going to basically put this balloon into liquid nitrogen, and hopefully it will contract as the liquid nitrogen cools the air down beneath it, all right? There you go. It's withering like my hopes and dreams. It's withering. Are we good there? Right, now I know what you all want is my fingers to fall off, all right? It's not going to happen. So in it goes. Now come closer, if you could, look. Oh look, it's all over. Now, that's relatively unspectacular. The balloon's gone away. Where's it gone? All right, where's all the gas gone? Well, the gas is still there, but because it's so cold, the molecules are moving slower, and so they contract. But if we blow on it, it should get big all by itself, because the air inside the balloon is re-equilibrating with ambient temperature, and it's going to assume its hitherto previous volume. Isn't that great? It's a bit bent, I suppose. Not quite the same, not in A1 mint condition, but I think you'd agree it's blown up all by itself. So there you go, science diversity. Are we all right, ladies, on the stairs? You all right? Ooh. All the science is happening over here, all right? And so there we go. Right, there's the physics for you. Right, give it up for the liquid nitrogen balloon. Now, some of the experiments we do are relatively simple, but relatively elegant, and we can tell some nice stories about why they're important. And I'm always told that the politicians that win the votes are the ones that tell the stories and not the ones that show the bar charts. Did you move my iPad? Anyway, the point is, as you can see, Mike's a strapping young man, all right? Obviously works out a bit.
Thank
Mike,
you.
can you pull that rubber tube apart? No, you can't. Right. So why is this important? Let's show Mike how he can pull the rubber tube apart and tell you a story. The Space Shuttle Challenger. Do you remember that? The first space shuttle to be destroyed. That was destroyed for the want of a rubber tube, because the space shuttle had three tanks. Two of them which were solid fuel boosters, which used aluminium, ammonium perchlorate, and a special type of rubber. And they were built in stages. And the reason they were built in stages was due to the NASA tendering process. They wanted to spread all the wealth around the country, and a company called Morton Thiokol got the tender, and they were landlocked in Idaho. And therefore they had to make the solid fuel boosters in sections which were stuck together in the field. And those sections were they had rubber tubing, rubber O-rings to keep them sealed. And when the Challenger took off, it was very, very cold. It was much colder than it should have been, but they launched it anyway. And what happened was, the rubber tubing in the O-rings, Mike, could you kindly go and show what happened to the rubber tubing? The rubber tubing in the O-rings was too brittle. And what happened is, when the space shuttle took off, isn't that great? When the space shuttle took off, it rocked back and forth, which is what it was supposed to do. It's called the twang, and the O-ring allowed some gas to escape. And the gas escaped for a little while. You saw a black puff of gas, and that was then plugged by some aluminium. And it took off, but as the space shuttle was buffeted by the wind, the gap opened up again, and the fuel started burning a hole in the liquid fuel tank, and of course the liquid hydrogen and the liquid oxygen escaped, and 73 seconds into the flight, the shuttle exploded, all for the want of a piece of brittle rubber tube. So, it is important, and that's why. Now, let's move on. And you'll be delighted to know I'm going to sing again. Okay? We have here a Reuben's tube. I'm going to get Mike to explain the theory behind it. Over to you, Mike.
Right. Here, let me just put this on. Here we have a Reuben's tube. Basically, it's a whole series of flames we've got a speaker at one end, and we're going to create a standing wave by producing a sound wave. I'll just turn this down a little bit. And Hal, are you going to sing for me first of all, or shall I do
some tones?
I'll do some tones
Explain
first
the theory about the waves, the standing waves.
Right, so I've plugged it into here. This has got a tone generator on here, and if I produce the exact tone, we'll actually see a sound wave in here. So if I click on here, okay, here we go.
Right, there you go.
Right, if we turn this down to around 300.
Right, can you see the waveform beginning to appear? You've got a nice sine wave there. All right, and that's caused by the fact that when you put sound through it, sound is a compression wave. So where the peaks are, like here, you've got more propane and air causing a higher flame, and where the troughs are, you've got less propane and air causing a lower flame. Okay, let's go, Mike.
If we do it on that, then that is just one wave. So you can just about see one peak, one trough. And if we go up to an even higher one, we'll get, there we go. I can turn that up a smidgen.
Can you see that? Lovely. That's like the logo for that company, isn't it?
Don't know what one you're talking about. Anyway, should we get you singing?
Yeah, shall we?
Okay.
Right, so that's all very well with these tones, but we need to sing a song, and don't concentrate on the song, although it's very good and it would win the X Factor. Concentrate on the waveforms. We've got a microphone?
Just in front of you there.
This one here?
That one there.
Right, we ready?
Ready.
Right. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine, in the pale moonshine our hearts entwine, where she carved her name and I carved mine. Oh June, like the mountains I'm blue, like the pine, I am lonesome for you. No laughing. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine.
I'm not sure that was quite in key, but there were some good tones there.
Right, so what a lot of nice physics in one little experiment. All the waveforms, all to do with compression waves. Right, we're going to come to the end of our first event. We've got another one at 11:45 or thereabouts. Listen out for it. But before you go, we're going to give you a right big bang. We're going to go right back to solid carbon dioxide, and Glenn's going to hand me the bottle that's right in front of me. What we're going to do is this. This is a polyethylene terephthalate soda bottle, and Mike's going to start filling it. And I'll just tell you a bit about the science of pop bottles. In the days when they first brought out pop bottles and they were in glass containers, people would often get shot in the eye by the lid. You'd unscrew the lid and the pressure inside the bottle would shoot it into your eye. Nowadays, if you unscrew the lid of one of these, after a quarter of a turn, you hear that satisfying hiss, don't you? Right, okay, that's because they've got little grooves in the thread, and when you turn it, the grooves line up and the pressure escapes before the lid's unscrewed, which I think is ingenious. But then again, I haven't got any friends and I should get out more. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to put CO2 into the bottle, and then we're going to put boiling water in, and of course the CO2 is going to sublime. And as it sublimes, the volume's going to increase, and that's all very well as long as the bottle's open. But then I'm going to put the lid on, and so the volume can't increase, and if the volume can't increase, the pressure will increase. And then the bottle's going to explode. All right? So when it happens, put your fingers in your ears, and you will see the bottle giving up under the terrible sublimation power of CO2. You've got cold hands now.
Got cold hands, and I appear to have more CO2 on the table than the bottle.
Yeah, okay. If you get some in the bottle, that'd be really great. Okay, I think we're there, aren't we?
Yeah.
Right, okay, so are we all clear with what's going to happen? We're going to fill the bottle up with water, and then we're going to explode it, okay? So there's going to be a big bang. And maybe even some water coming your way, but it'll be cold water. And a bit of shrapnel, all right? But you knew the risk. It's a science show. What did you expect, all right? You don't like big bangs and shrapnel and explosions. You came to the wrong show. Now, we need some large art music. So, Glenn, can you sort us out, please? It's always happens, mate. No, large art music, all right? Something tense. Let's go. All right, let's go. I can't hold it, she's breaking up, she's breaking up, she's breaking up. Actually, just another day in the office with me, I do this all the time. In it goes, you can see the CO2 subliming, all that white smoke. Nearly there, Mike. All right, Mike, save yourself, save yourself. Okay, fingers in your ears. It's going to go in a minute. Okay, fingers in your ears. Wow, what a great explosion. What a big bang. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.